Hi, I'm Chap Bettis, author of The Disciple Making Parent, and this is my audio blog, where I read some of my blog posts in audio format for your convenience. In today's episode, we're going to be thinking about 7 principles for becoming a contented parent. I recently had the privilege of hearing Eric Raymond, author of Chasing Contentment, speak on this very subject. He's an excellent, low-key, metaphor-filled speaker. As he was addressing us, I found myself applying his words to my life at home. Maybe they can help you too. Here are some personal reflections on thinking about contentment and discontentment in my home. Number 1, my home is ground zero where I see my discontented heart. Whether grumbling to myself about my spouse, my children, my finances, my home, or a myriad of other things, it's easy to be discontented about family life. Perhaps I have high hopes that are not being fulfilled. Perhaps I'm comparing my spouse or children to others. Maybe there are little irritations that I have to learn to live with. Whatever the case, home reveals my heart. Furthermore, my children are watching my attitude. If I'm grumbling about my spouse, they'll notice it. If I'm nitpicking them or her, they'll observe it. Rather than excusing my complaining and blame shifting to others, let me realize that grumbling comes from my heart, not my circumstances. So number 1, my home is ground zero where I see my discontented heart. Number 2, my home life is ground zero where I learn to have a contented heart. If home reveals my heart, home can also be a small place I can grow. Confession and micro-repentances can help me to receive these irritations as from the Lord. These can help me put on thankfulness and encouragement for those closest to me. They can cause me to find my ultimate contentment in Christ, not my family. Contentment is a learned attribute. Paul said he had learned to be content in every situation. Number 2, my home life is ground zero where I learn to have a contented heart. Number 3, my contentment at home is about my heart. My contentment at home does not depend on circumstances. In Eric Raymond's words, quote, "Circumstances don't speak to contentment. Contentment must speak to the circumstances." And the late Elizabeth Elliot said in the book Keep a Quiet Heart, quote, "The secret is Christ in me, not me in a different set of circumstances." So number 3, my contentment at home is about my heart. Number 4, my contentment is grounded in my view of God's character and God's providence. Contentment finds its strength, source, and model in God. Before Genesis 1, God the Father, Son, and Spirit dwelt in happy contentment. I too can dwell in happy contentment no matter what. In addition, related to that, do I trust that there's a good God and a wise God behind the circumstances in my life today? As John Flavel said, providence, like Hebrew letters, should be read backwards. Do I believe that my circumstances are tailor-made to make me like Christ, and Christ is the tailor? Do I believe my circumstances are tailor-made to make me more like Christ, and Christ is the tailor? So number 4, my contentment is grounded in my view of God's character and God's providence. Number 5, teaching our children to be contented should be a goal of every parent. We're surrounded by harried families rushing from activity to activity. Businesses use discontentment so that we will buy the next upgrade. Social media projects happy images that causes discontentment to resonate within our hearts. As parents, our job is not to keep our children from ever being bored or discontented. Our job is to cast a vision for learned contentment in the circumstance. So number 5, teaching our children to be contented should be a goal for every parent. Number 6, lack of contentment in my children is probably not a problem with my parenting. Discontentment and fussy children are usually not a problem with us as parents, but with the character of our children. A friend who's a pediatrician recently observed that some moms can't seem to stand their children being unhappy at all, and they rush in to fix any unhappiness. While certainly I want to give my children opportunities and see them flourish, I'm going to balance that with the need to train them to live in a fallen world where they'll need to learn internal contentment in Christ. Number 6, lack of contentment in my children is probably not a problem with my parenting. Number 7, contentment is not equal to complacency or lukewarmness or laziness. We don't want to err on the other side. There's a godly ambition and hard work that should empower us as well. This godly discontentment that should cause us to paraphrase Thomas Goodwin, sue God for his promises in prayer. Paul told his audience that if they could gain their freedom, they should. It's found in 1 Corinthians 7:21. So number 7, contentment is not equal to complacency, lukewarmness, or laziness. Now, there's certainly more that we can talk about in training for contentment, whether your children are 3 or 13. But these are some principles to lay the foundation for our family. Families with gospel contentment will display the glory of Christ to a frantic world. Thank you for listening to the Disciple Making Parent audio blog. Did you know that we give away the audiobook of the Disciple Making Parent absolutely for free? We're on a mission to equip parents to pass the gospel to their children. So simply send an email to audiobook@theapollosproject.com telling us you heard about the offer on the podcast. That's audiobook@theapollosproject.com. Thanks for listening.